And to wrap it up with my lectures for today, I'm going to be talking about chapters 13 and 14, and you might be looking at the slides thinking, wow, how in the world did she condense chapters 13 and 14 into 6 different slides? 5 different ones if you take away the cover, the cover slide. Well, because I just want to be able to speak a little bit more freely about the importance of theoretical orientations in the practice of counseling. So this is kind of the introduction. We've spent the bulk of the semester at this point honing in those micro skills, practicing them, being observed, using them, getting you the good foundation that you need in order to facilitate incorporating any theoretical orientation or whatever theoretical orientation that you feel resonates with you. Which would then take you kind of to the next level of counseling, okay? So theoretical orientations are kind of the heart of a counselor, okay? That you should never be practicing counseling in the absence of a theoretical orientation. And if I could yell that from the rooftops, I absolutely would. Even counselors that say that they are integrated or eclectic need to have some structure around what that means. And there are a good number of counselors, actually more counselors than not, identify as being either eclectic or integrated, meaning that they pull certain key aspects from different theories and incorporate them in a defined way in their practice, okay? So you're never, or should never, be sitting with a client and not adhering to or thinking about your theoretical orientation and how your theoretical orientation frames the work that you do with your clients. I don't care if you are doing counseling in a residential treatment facility, in your private home office, school counselors even. I preach this to school counselors too. Everybody should be practicing from some type of theoretical foundation. And this is your introduction to it. The rest of this lecture today and all of day 3, we'll be talking about theories. And so incorporating the skills that you have learned up to this point with a theory will then kind of round out your skill set, okay? So all theories are different. And, when we think of theories, automatically you might think of kind of the old ones, the ones that have been around for a really long time, like psychoanalytic theory, Adlerian theory, person-centered, because I already talked to you about person-centered theory, cognitive behavioral therapy, because we're focusing a little bit on that at the end of this day, if you will. But theories are inherently different. Okay, if you think about where they came from, and we'll get a lot deeper into each one of these theories in your next theories and techniques class, okay? So I don't expect for you to know every single little thing about each theoretical orientation. But when you start to understand the history of theories and theoretical orientations and where they came from, you learn that like Adler was a student of Freud, and that's pretty nifty, right? I mean, that's a neat little fun fact. But Adler didn't like everything that Freud had to say. And so what did he do? He went out and developed his own theoretical orientation. And so we've kind of found that if we're looking back through history and looking at all these theories from the newer ones like positive psychology, some of the social justice focused and multicultural oriented theoretical orientations, those are the newer ones. They've all kind of formed and been developed because certain pieces of older theoretical orientations were missing. Now that's not to say that modern day psychoanalytic therapists have not tweaked what Freud first enacted, right, in his theoretical orientation. There are these postmodern differences from kind of those original theories. But each theory has their own unique little patterns of how micro skills are used. And each theory has their own unique foundation, meaning that some theories may think that human beings are more inclined to change on their own, independently. Other theories might say, meh, it's more about what society and the influences of society. Some theories may focus more on the here and now, some focus on the future, some focus on the past. So there are all these little nuances about each theoretical orientation that make them unique. The stages of interviewing, and the reason I picked this textbook, just in case you're ever wondering why I picked the textbook, the stages of interviewing that you have learned and these micro skills and that have been kind of presented to you in terms of being interviewing a client. All of those skills you will see throughout every theoretical orientation. Okay, there's not any theoretical orientation that tells you, you know what, don't listen to those clients. They don't know what they're talking about. Don't reflect back. Don't do anything like that. You just need to keep talking and talking and disclosing the whole time. So they all include these the pyramid of micro skills, if you will. So then the question becomes, well, how do I choose? How do I pick which theoretical orientation I should be using? So you don't need to decide now. You don't need to decide now. I'm not expecting you to use a specific theoretical orientation in the next observation, for example. I do want you to start trying them out, okay? Dabble your toes in the theoretical orientation pond, if you will. And in table 13.1, I want you to review that table because it offers the key points for some of the major theoretical orientations that are used by counselors and therapists practicing today. And so you can kind of get a sense of do I really want to focus on the future with a client? Do I want it to be brief? Do I see myself working in a setting where I need to get clients rolling real quick, or do I see myself working in a setting where I have some time? So because some of these are time limited, psychoanalytic theory, you're there for years. Solution focus, brief therapy applications, some of those say, even that first session does it. That's all you need is one session or even a phone call. Start to think which one feels more comfortable to you, okay? Again, I'm not expecting you to choose one now, but you will see that there are some techniques that might be more prevalent in certain theoretical orientations. So, again, solution focus, you might have scaling questions. That's a good thing to start practicing, on a scale of 1 to 10. How do you see yourself achieving said goal in the next 5 days? That's a very bad example, I feel like, but scaling questions are pretty common. Use of homework is real common in cognitive behavioral therapy. Use of narrative therapy and storytelling is, kind of entwined into some of the social constructivist theories. So it might be that you're just kind of getting a sense and a feel in the next couple days, weeks, as we move through the rest of the semester, of what might make sense for you to be using. It's hard to describe. How do we know? Well, it's like, how do I know that this person is somebody I'm going to marry? Well, I kind of had a feeling. How do I know that this was the right outfit to pick for the day? I kind of had a feeling. So sometimes you'll have just kind of a feeling when you start to read about the theoretical orientations, when you start to use some of the techniques that each theoretical orientation has that's unique to that orientation. Sometimes it'll just start to feel a little bit more natural to you. Other times it may be that you are working for an agency that says, hey, we really think you should use some DBT with our clients. Or you're working for an agency that says, all of us really are CBT oriented. Wink, wink, nod, nod. So some organizations will kind of push or encourage counselors to use one theoretical orientation over another. Other important things to note. A theoretical orientation is founded in evidence-based practices, okay? So we are not coming up with our own theoretical orientations. You are not practicing using some type of theoretical orientation that is not based in some grounded theory, okay? You're not picking something off of the internet and saying, well, this sounds fun, I'm going to try this out with a client. Evidence-based practices in terms of using theories to inform our work as counselors means that there's been research done around the effectiveness of using that therapeutic approach, and it's happened over a long period of time that it has been proven to work and be successful. CBT is one of those theoretical orientations that has such a strong research foundation that we know now that it is absolutely the evidence supports that CBT and using CBT with a variety of different populations is successful. It is a successful form of a therapeutic approach. So now the other question is, well, what if somebody is out there developing a new theoretical orientation? Can I use it then? Well, I mean, To a degree, yes. You're always informing clients ethically of the practices that you're using. You're telling your clients in a disclosure statement that, hey, this is what this is my theoretical orientation. This is what it means. This is how I look at how how people change, what their theory of discourse is, how they come to be in the state that they are. You're explaining all of this to your clients right at the onset, and then you're giving them an option to hit the road and go with somebody else if they don't like your approach. So where was I going with this? Oh, so new theoretical orientations, things that are coming out, right? Let's take positive psychology as an example. Positive psychology is relatively new, we're talking in the past 20 years, which in the kind of, again, grand scheme of things is relatively new, a new theoretical orientation, if you will. So yes, at some point, somebody started practicing these things. With every new family systems theory, there was a therapist there trying out some new techniques. And so informing clients that that's happening, allowing them the autonomy to leave and seek counseling from somebody else that isn't, trying some new things out, touching base with your clients more frequently about the techniques you might be using or trying out, and then continuing to read up about the theory, to stay on top of the research. All of that goes into, how do we use something that's not, completely evidence-based yet, right? But it's on the way to that. So there's a difference between, again, picking things from the sky and saying, I'm just going to go with the flow and just going to talk to my clients, and what happens, what happens. You do not want to be doing that. Not for the sake of you, for maintaining certifications and credentials, but not for your clients. You could really be doing harm to your clients if you're not practicing from some type of theoretical foundation. I hope that scared you a little bit, honestly, but as new counselors, you need to understand the importance of that, of looking at theories, looking at them in a way that you should be, looking at them to dissect them a bit and figure out which one makes sense, feels right for you to be using. I put on slide 5 some of the most common theories, or not common, the theoretical orientations that exist out there right now. Again, cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, is one of the most widely used theoretical orientations or theoretical approaches to counseling. Eclectic and integrated is kind of the next one down the line in terms of how many counselors are using that approach. And I'll go into a little bit more tomorrow about what that means, what that actually looks like to be eclectic or integrated in your work. So I encourage you to check out Table 13, go through and start kind of thinking to yourself, I wonder which theoretical approach which one would suit me the most, which do I feel like I could be using, do a little bit of additional research if you like. But again, I'm not expecting that you know the ins and outs of all of these approaches yet. That comes in the next class. So do with it what you will if you want to do some more research and you have the time, because we're all still socially distancing ourselves, right? And for me, my theoretical approach, I guess I should probably share this part too. My theoretical approach is solution-focused counseling. I came to really enjoy that approach because I was doing short-term counseling, and so my clients that I work with, to have a full hour with them was rare, and to have sometimes, a handful of sessions with them was more typical than not. Solution-focused counseling also worked well when I was doing vocational rehabilitation counseling, because you have the counseling part of it, but then you also have the job development, job placement side of it, which takes up a significant amount of time. And so solution focus as an approach for me worked really well with the jobs that I was working in. I also am kind of a blunt to the point person, and solution focused therapy allows for that. And I genuinely do believe that people have the capability of changing in a very short amount of time if they're given the right tools, if they're shown that they have, these that they can pull from experiences that they had in the past and use those experiences and the resilience that they already have within themselves to enact some change moving forward. I think that's inherent in everybody. So for me, whenever I started practicing, whenever I graduated, I bought a book on solution-focused therapy so that I could better hone my skills, and I even integrate solution-focused theory into my supervision style as well, which if you have me for a practicum and internship, you will find out more about that, I suppose. But that's a little bit about me and my orientation to counseling. So it's also, again, I'm kind of going off on a tangent here. See? I only needed 5 slides, folks. Whenever you get out there in the real world and you're applying for jobs, there's a very real possibility that your future employers would want to know what your theoretical orientation is. And if you have me for 606, in that class, I assign a full-blown theoretical orientation paper, so where you're really digging into a theory of your choosing a little bit more. But it is important that I think you start to think about this right now, so that you're not even going into practicum without some type of understanding of where you might, what orientation you might be practicing from. All right, with that, I'll leave you guys to the discussion boards, and you will see me again on day 3.